What's going on, y'all? Harry from Harry the Horse Barbecue here, and in this one, I am not horsing around with these triple cherry spare ribs. We're gonna brine some ribs in some cherry soda, smoke them off with some cherry wood for some amazing smoke and deep red color, glaze them with a homemade cherry barbecue sauce, and then we will slice on into some juicy, tender, flavorful ribs that are packed with cherry flavor. Looking to triple the flavor of your ribs? Well, the horse has got your back. Let's get it.
Harry the Horse Barbecue.
It's an early start on these ribs, so we're gonna need some coffee to get us through this cook. Now, I love ribs because they are so versatile and you can apply so many different flavor profiles to one cut of meat. Now, being inspired by my guy Ted over at Hojo Barbecue, he threw a bone-in pork roast into a cherry cola brine. So that inspired this cook, in which I'm gonna cook up some triple cherry ribs. Don't wanna spill the coffee. So in order to lay on the first layer of cherry on these ribs, we're gonna go shopping for some ribs. So let's go. These be some spare ribs, and these are just some spare ribs I picked up at the local grocery store, and they're looking pretty darn good. So enough horsing around, let's get these ribs out of the pack. Ow. Disappointing. Look at this massive gash. That is so upsetting to me. Well, you guys can see I have this really unfortunate, thin, flabby piece over here. Then this rack of ribs gets incredibly thick right here. I can see if I can work some magic, but here we go. So we're gonna have to lob a big chunk of this off. The fates are testing the horse's patience today. Take this end bone off. Too tiny to keep. Take some of this back fat off. As you can see, the skirt has been taken off. The chine bone, C-H-I-N-E, that bone has been taken off, which is great because I'm not paying for the price of those things that I'm not gonna actually keep on my ribs. But I actually like to have full control when I'm trimming up ribs so I can shape them up and keep what I'd like, as opposed to just kind of being dealt the hand that was given to me. Good shape here, but man, what am I gonna do with this? This is all thin and it's gonna like shrink up. I've got a nice rack of ribs up to this point. I just gotta keep this as flat as possible to make it even look right, but this is so thick on this end and it tapers down to almost nothing on this end. This backside's looking pretty good. I took down the skirt just a little bit more, tried to thin this out just a wee bit just because it's so thick right here. There's a little baby bone right there. I'm gonna make a business decision here and I'm gonna take off that little baby bone. That's all we can do. So I'm gonna stay as close to that little bone as possible. Hurts my soul to do that. Flip this back over, round that off. It's like, boom, that looks great. And then you're like, oh man, what happened? But that's enough of me complaining about these ribs. I can tell y'all one thing for sure though. They're gonna taste good at the end of the day. But since we've got these trimmed up, now we're gonna throw them into a cherry cola brine. So let's get going on that. When my guy Ted said a cherry soda brine, I thought that was a great idea and it really leans into the more competition style of things. But if you're gonna know anything about me, I actually hate soda. I'm not a big advocate for soda in brines and sauces and things like that. I think they can work well and add a lot of deliciousness, but soda's just terrible for you. But here we are using it. Now you can go cherry Coca-Cola or whatever you want. I don't know the whole debate about different sodas or whatever, but I heard good things about cherry Dr. Pepper, so I'm gonna go in with a bunch of these right into this brining bucket. Double fist it, double fist it. Coffee brined ribs next. And the last can in. And I'm actually gonna reserve 2 of these cans of cherry Dr. Pepper for the cherry glaze we're gonna make. So this is about 10 cans total. So 10 times 12 fluid ounces is what, 120 fluid ounces? That's right, Z. 120 fluid ounces. And now we're gonna go in with a couple of extra flavorings that I think will pair well with the cherry flavor profile. Just about 4 cloves of garlic. And I actually hate the way this soda smells. A couple of cinnamon sticks, a couple of bay leaves, black peppercorns, and actually some allspice berries. And now in with our ribs, and it's pretty well submerged. That's pretty nice. All right, the ribs are pretty much fully submerged. I put the meat side down just so we can get the full amount of penetration of this brine. Yeah, zoomy, see? So I'm gonna let this sit for about 4 hours or so. The ribs are also a thin cut of meat, so we don't need a terribly long time in this brine. So at that rate, this is gonna hit the fridge and I'll see you guys in about 4 hours. Okay, bye. Those ribs have been brining for a little over 4 hours, and all we're gonna do before we pull them out is make a rub for these ribs. So let's do it. First down with 2 parts 16 mesh black pepper, then 1 part of diamond crystal kosher salt, Maybe all of it would be good. There we go. Half a part of granulated garlic. And now it gets fun. About a quarter part of seasoned salt. This is Chud's Barbecue Secret Salt. Another quarter part or so of brownulated sugar. And if you haven't tried brownulated sugar, it gives you that sweetness in a rub without the clumping of brown sugar. And then lastly, about a quarter part of paprika, or as I like to call it, paprika. Realize you don't have a top for that, and you transfer it to a bigger container, cap it. Let's go fishing for some ribs. There's our rack of ribs. Definitely a big color change. Give it a flip around. I am gonna take a little bit of this off just so that edge is nice and clean before these hit the smoker. Then we'll give them a flip around and then we'll season them pretty liberally on the back side with our homemade rub. Pat that in real nice. Then give it another flip around. And then the same thing on our presentation side, a nice heavy coating of this rub all over the top. Pat it in again. And these ribs are looking actually pretty darn good. Now I had a bit of a microphone malfunction, but as you guys can see that these ribs are actually looking really nice. The trim and the seasoning really brought this rack of ribs together. The soda's gonna add a lot of sweetness, and that rub is gonna add some sweetness, savoriness, saltiness, and that black pepper is gonna help attract all of that beautiful smoke. So these ribs are looking ready for the cooker. So let's go fire up the cooker. Nothing but cherry wood for this cook, plus some snake nests. All right, y'all, the cooker's on its way up and it is freezing out here. So let's get these ribs on. Up and under, okay? Something about like that. Now I've got these ribs oriented upside down to y'all because the thicker side I'm gonna put towards the fire and the thinner side with the gash I'm gonna keep away from the fire so this doesn't curl up. That's gonna be the biggest thing here, is to prevent this gash from curling. So we're gonna let these ribs rock on the smoker for the next 2 to 3 hours or so before I bring y'all back to check in. We're gonna let all that cherry wood add that beautiful smoke flavor, and cherry wood is notorious for putting great color onto ribs. Now I've got the damper to the smokestack about 1/3 of the way closed, and our fire's rocking about 225 to 250 degrees for the majority of this cook. I'll bring y'all back when they're looking smoky and hopefully cherry red. But until then, all we gotta do is close it down. Boom, triple cherry shakalaka. All right, y'all, we're about 3 hours in on these ribs. At this point in the cook, we're gonna do 2 things. 1, we're gonna spray and flip the ribs. And 2, we're gonna start to bump up temps. We've been rocking about 225 degrees for the first 3 hours, just to ensure we get enough smoke flavor on these ribs. And at this point in the cook, we wanna render fat and get these ribs tender. So let's check them out. So temps are now gonna be rocking anywhere between 250 and 275. Yeah, those are looking pretty nice, I will say. We've been babying that gash really well. So it's actually blending in and not curling up, which is great. That rub and that cherry smoke, these ribs are looking so red, I love to see it. But as mentioned previously, we're gonna hit this with some apple cider vinegar. We're gonna see some of that color come back, which is beautiful to see. Clean up some of these dark parts like over there. That looks beautiful. Now we're gonna pick them up and we're gonna gently lay them down. And I'm still gonna keep the thick side towards the fire. We're also gonna give this a little love on the back end, but all we gotta do now is close it down. Boom. And at this rate, y'all, bumping up the temps and flipping the ribs is gonna give the backside of these ribs a chance to pick up some color and hopefully crisp up that membrane just a little bit. But we're gonna let these ribs rock this way for about an hour. And while they're cooking away, let's go make a cherry barbecue sauce that's gonna top these ribs and give them some amazing flavor and color. Off we go. And now we're gonna triple down on this cherry flavor profile by making a cherry barbecue sauce. Starts with a saucepan. We're gonna start with 1 can of that cherry Dr. Pepper. We should probably empty the contents. Next, about a cup of ketchup, about a 1/2 cup or so of cherry preserves, organic that is, roughly a 1/2 cup of pitted sweet dark cherries, about a 1/2 cup of brown sugar, about a 1/2 cup of apple cider vinegar, 2 tablespoons of our rub we made earlier, and lastly a good heaping amount of honey. That's gonna add some nice sweetness and a nice sheen to this sauce. At this rate, this is just gonna hit the stove until this comes up to a nice simmer. Then we'll hit this with an immersion blender to bring it all together. And with a few ingredients you have lying around and a few specialty ingredients, we have a beautiful cherry barbecue sauce. I mean, look at the color of that. That's incredible, that color, and that's incredibly hot. So we're gonna leave this to just hang out for a little bit. And the first application is gonna be throwing this sauce into the wrap once we wrap those ribs. And here's our rack of rib 4.5 hours in or so. Color's looking good, nice and red, smelling smoky, getting a little dark on the edges, so that's the time I'm gonna pull them and straight down into our wrap with our cherry barbecue sauce. Gonna go with a little more of our cherry barbecue sauce, over the top, or I guess the back. A perfectly wrapped rack of ribs. Oh my gosh, that's tough to say. Back onto the smoker until we reach tenderness, then we'll tack them up. In just about 6 hours on the nose, our ribs are off the smoker and they're smelling ridiculous. I mean, just ask Ozzy and Moon. They smelt it and they followed me right into the kitchen. Now, I knew it was time to take them off the smoker because when I picked them up, they have a pretty good bend to them, but they're not bending too much where I know that they're overcooked, and they're not stiff as a board when I pick them up either, so they're nice and in between those two feelings. And if you're interested at home, these were reading somewhere around the 200 mark or so. So at this rate, we're pretty much 3 levels of cherry flavor built into these ribs, but here's what I'm gonna do. Right now, I'm gonna chill down these ribs to room temperature, and then I'm gonna throw them in the fridge overnight to chill them down completely. And the reason I'm doing that is 1, because it's late and I'm getting tired, but 2, I'd like to show you all the process of when I boat up these ribs and paint them with a little more sauce to show you all that process and the final presentation. So with that, I'll say night night to these ribbies, and I'll see y'all tomorrow to finish out these ribs. All right, y'all, it's the next day, and I just lit up the smoker so the temps are on their way up to about 250 degrees, maybe even pushing 275, 300 to warm up these ribs. I just chucked the ribs onto the smoker, put them in a little foil boat so we can expose the surface, start to reheat the ribs just a little bit, and loosen up any of the fat and sauce that was in the wrap. So they've been on for about 15 minutes, so the chill has been taken off of them. But just a quick note before we check in, if y'all been out here for 2 days cooking these cherry ribs with me, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let's get this channel to 10K subs. So let's get it and let's check it. All right, and here's our ribs. They are looking so cherry red. That is beautiful color right there. But I've got some piping hot cherry barbecue sauce that we made yesterday, and I'm just gonna dab this right on top. Just gonna add a ton of sweetness to this, but they're just a base of Texas style spares with just some amazing flavors added onto it. So that's as simple as this technique gets. But I don't wanna oversauce them, so I'm only gonna come through maybe 1 or 2 more times and do this until the ribs are completely heated up, and then I'll meet y'all back inside to slice on into these bad mamma jammas. 2 days for ribs, we not horsing around. Let's finish out these ribs. After about an hour and a half on the smoker or so and about a 30-minute rest, these ribs are looking really, really sweet. Let's check them out. This isn't coming through on camera the way I think it should because the red color on these ribs is just insane. Let's slice in. No heroes here. It's crazy that these ribs look almost like a spare rib you get at a Chinese restaurant. Check this out. Complete boneless spare rib now. Can you still judge a rib properly if the bone fell out? I think so. Look at that. Holy crap, that's good. Well, there's absolutely no doubt that we're gonna put this whole rack of ribs away tonight, for sure. And I'm pretty sure I just caught Perry's entire testimonial on camera, but off camera, so maybe I can edit that in. Just take a bite of this end. I am eating this one on camera.
And I'm eating it off camera. I need like a lot of them right now, and I'm hungry. It's like I need them now.
Sweet. These ribs are seriously not horsing around. I mean, that is just an insane flavor profile. And check a look at the knuckle. Peels right off, no problem. Tons of smoke flavor right up front. The rib quality is great, nice and fatty, super tender. And it's that perfect level of tenderness where you can bite right through it like you guys saw. I mean, granted, the bone came out clean, but it's not really affecting the rib eating experience. You're getting tons of straight up sweetness, a little tartness from the cherry flavor profile. The smoke is gentle. It's just such a perfect complement to this flavor profile, but it's not all sweet. You get a ton of savoriness. You're almost getting a little bit of heat. Where did that come from? Guys, I'm telling you, if you're gonna take anything away from this video, make this cherry barbecue sauce. It's nuts. That's the bite. This is easily my new favorite rib recipe. Hands down, it hits all the flavor profiles. If I was running a barbecue restaurant, these would be on special at least once a week for sure. It just requires a few special ingredients like the pitted sweet dark cherries, some cherry preserves. You just gotta have a little extra room in the fridge or a walk-in to brine those ribs. But I think the 3 level of cherries is knocked out of the park on this one. So I don't know what else to say to y'all except for stop horsing around and make these already. And let me know if you do. Thank y'all for tuning into Harry the Horse Barbecue. I really appreciate you checking out this video. Make sure you subscribe for the vibes, hit that like for these cherry ribs, and drop a comment down below with the next flavor profile of ribs I should be making. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I'm posting new content, and you can follow me on Instagram at Harry the Horse Barbecue. Tag me so I can see what y'all are cooking because y'all inspire these cooks. And with that being said, there's only one more thing, y'all. This one is going straight to the horse's mouth. We'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace. Need I say more?
it.